Commander had seen death before. He had watched entire fleets burn in the void of space. He had ordered strikes that turned planets into glass. 200 campaigns across 70 star systems had taught him what dying looked like. This was what dying looked like. His escape pod tumbled through the debris field, spinning slowly past the wreckage of his dreadnought. The Battle of the Fractured Belt had lasted 6 hours. His ship had lasted 5. The emergency systems in the pod were failing one by one, each warning chime marking another step closer to the end. The temperature was dropping. His breath came out in visible clouds inside his helmet. The species needed warmth. They needed their specific atmospheric mix. They needed pressure regulation. The pod was providing none of these things anymore. Felt his limbs growing heavy. His 3 hearts were slowing down. The cold was seeping into his bones. He had maybe 2 hours left, perhaps 3 if he was unlucky enough to suffer. His combat computer had stopped trying to find allied ships. There were none. The ambush had been perfect. The enemy had known exactly where to strike, exactly when to hit. Someone had betrayed them but would never know who. That answer would die with him in this broken pod. He closed his eyes. A warrior's death was supposed to be honorable. This felt like freezing to death in a metal coffin. Then his sensors beeped, one last time. Forced his eyes open. A ship was approaching, small, primitive design. The scanning signature was strange. Not any of the known Alliance species. The computer struggled to identify it. Finally, text appeared on his cracked screen. Species, human, origin, Earth, status, unaligned. Humans had heard of them, a new species, barely space-worthy. They had no great fleets, no powerful weapons. They were scavengers mostly, picking through the edges of the war that bigger civilizations were fighting. The human ship moved closer, waited for them to scan his pod and leave. Why would they help? He had nothing to offer them. His pod had no valuable technology left. He was just a dying alien in a broken box. But the ship didn't leave. It matched velocity with his tumbling pod. A magnetic grapple locked onto the hull, felt the spinning stop as the human ship stabilized his pod. Then came a voice over the communication channel. It spoke in broken galactic standard, the accent strange and harsh. "This is captain of the salvage vessel Morning Star. We have you secured. Hold on, we're bringing you in." Tried to respond, but his voice wouldn't work. The cold had seized his throat. The human ship pulled him into a cargo bay. Through the pod's small window could see figures moving. They wore bulky space suits. They moved quickly with purpose. One of them was checking a handheld device, shaking their head. The cargo bay doors sealed. Atmosphere flooded in, but knew it wouldn't help. Human atmosphere wasn't right for him. The temperature wasn't right. The pressure wasn't right. They had saved him from the void only to watch him die slightly slower in their cargo hold. The pod door opened. Hands reached in, strong hands. They pulled out carefully. He was twice their size, but they managed. They laid him on the deck. A human removed their helmet. Female, young, dark hair pulled back. Her eyes were focused and calm. "I'm Dr. Park," she said in that same broken standard. "You're in bad shape. Your body temperature is way too low. I need to stabilize you." Managed to move his hand slightly. He pointed weakly at the air around them. "Wrong," he whispered. "Wrong atmosphere, wrong temperature, cannot survive here." Looked at him for a moment, then she turned to the others. "I need you to rig a containment field, atmospheric processor from the emergency supplies. Can you do it?" A male human pulled off his helmet. He was already moving toward a storage locker. "The field generator will drain our backup power." "Then we drain it," said. She was already pulling out medical equipment. "Captain." Another human stepped forward, older, face. He looked down with an expression the alien couldn't read. "Do it," Captain said. "We don't leave people to die when we can help them." Watched them work. It made no sense. They were using their critical backup power for him, a stranger, an alien warrior who would probably never see them again. In the Empire, wounded enemies were left to die. It was practical. It was efficient. These humans were being impractical. Set up a portable containment field around. It created a small bubble of space. Then he connected the atmospheric processor. The machine hummed to life. "I'm using your pod's atmospheric data," explained. "It'll take a few minutes to get the mix right." Was working on his armor, removing plates to access his chest. "I need to get heat into your core. Your temperature is dangerously low." She pressed something against his chest. "Warmth, blessed warmth," gasped. His 3 hearts beat a little faster. "There," said she, smiled. "That's better." For the next hour, drifted in and out of consciousness. He was aware of the humans moving around him, checking his vital signs, adjusting the containment field, bringing the atmosphere closer to what he needed. At one point, he heard an alarm. Something was wrong with the ship. A hull breach, radiation leak. The humans were arguing in their own language, fast and urgent. Stayed, she kept working. Even when the others called for her to help seal the breach, even when the radiation levels in the cargo bay started rising, she had a device on her belt that was beeping faster and faster, a warning, but she ignored it. She saved his life while poison filled the air around her. 18 hours later, woke up properly. The containment field was stable. The atmosphere was right. The temperature was perfect. His 3 hearts were beating strong and steady. Was asleep in a chair next to him. Her face was pale, exhausted. There was a radiation burn on her neck that she hadn't treated yet. Stared at her, this small human, this fragile creature. She should have died from the radiation exposure. She should have given up and saved herself, but she hadn't. Captain entered the cargo bay. He saw was awake and nodded. "You're going to live," he said simply. "Why?" asked. His voice was still weak. "Why did you save me?" Looked at him for a long moment, then he shrugged. "Because we could," he said. "That's reason enough." He walked away, leaving alone with his thoughts and the sleeping human doctor who had refused to let him die. For the first time in 200 campaigns, Commander felt something close to fear. Not of death. He understood death. He feared these humans, these strange, stubborn creatures who didn't follow any logical rules of survival. They were either incredibly foolish or incredibly dangerous. Suspected it was the latter. 3 days after waking up, could walk again. His containment field followed him through the ship on a mobile platform. The humans had adjusted their entire cargo schedule to accommodate his presence. They didn't complain about it. They just did it. Captain found him in the observation deck, staring at the stars. "We're heading to Sanctuary Station," said. "It's a refugee hub. We'll get you connected with your people there." Nodded, then he asked the question that had been bothering him. "The battle, you were there to scavenge the wreckage." "No," said quietly. "We were there to find survivors." Survivors turned to face him. The scanning data showed no life signs. The colony was destroyed, uninhabitable. His expression hardened. "Scanners can be wrong." Before could respond, the ship's intercom crackled. A voice spoke in rapid human language. His face changed. Relief. Joy. He grabbed the intercom and spoke back, his voice shaking slightly. He turned to, "We found them, the survivors from New Haven Colony." "That's impossible," said. "The colony was struck 11 days ago. The habitat domes were breached. No atmosphere, no heat, no power." Was already moving toward the cargo bay. "Come see for yourself." Followed, his containment field humming behind him. The cargo bay was chaos. Humans were everywhere, not crew, civilians. Men, women, children, they were wrapped in emergency blankets. Many were crying, some were laughing. All of them looked half dead. Doctor was moving through them, checking each person. Her medical scanner beeped constantly. She was giving orders to other crew members. Her voice was calm but urgent. I need 3 more warming units over here. These people have severe hypothermia. The engineer had seen before was already moving. He looked exhausted. His hands were wrapped in bandages. Burns realized fresh ones. A woman sat nearby, holding a child. The girl was maybe 8 years old in human terms. Her leg was wrapped in a crude splint. The woman was stroking the child's hair and whispering to her. Approached them slowly. His translator worked on human languages now. He could understand their words. "You're safe now," the woman was saying. "You're safe." "Is Mommy coming?" the child asked. Her voice was small, tired. The woman's face crumpled for a moment. Then she forced a smile. "Mommy made sure you got out. She'd be so proud of you." Felt something twist in his chest. He had seen war orphans before. Every species had them. But something about this child's calm acceptance made him uncomfortable. Captain was talking to a man with a deep cut across his forehead. The man's name was, and he was explaining what happened. "The attack came fast," said. His voice was rough. "We got maybe 90 people into the emergency shelter before the habitat breach. The shelter was designed for 48 hours. Basic supplies, minimal power." "You were down there 11 days, said. "Yes," hands were shaking. "The temperature dropped to -20°C. We had food for 3 days, water for 4. The air processor kept failing." Interrupted, "How did you survive?" Looked at him, really looked at him, at the alien warrior in his containment field. For a moment thought the human would refuse to answer, then shrugged. "We made it work," he said simply. "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer," said. "We had families down there, children. We couldn't just give up and die." Called over, his cut needed treatment, watched him go. Came over carrying more warming units. He set them up around a group of children. They huddled together, sharing the heat. "You kept the life support running," said two, "for 11 days. Looked up, his eyes were red with exhaustion. "Yeah." "How?" "The air processor needed manual cycling every 2 hours, said. He held up his bandaged hands. "The manual controls were damaged. They sparked every time I used them, but I had to keep cycling. No air circulation meant carbon dioxide buildup. That would kill everyone in 6 hours. Stared at him. "You operated damaged electrical systems for 11 days, every 2 hours. "Couldn't sleep much," admitted. "Maybe 10 minutes between cycles, but you can get used to anything if you have to." "The temperature, you said -20°C. "Yeah, we huddled together, shared body heat. The kids were in the center, adults on the outside. We rotated positions so nobody got too cold for too long," smiled slightly. "Humans are pretty good at generating heat. We just needed to keep it from escaping." "And food?" "We rationed, 1 meal every 2 days. The children ate every day. Adults could handle the hunger." His expression darkened. "2 people died anyway. Old man named. He gave his food portions to the kids. We didn't realize until it was too late. And a woman named. She had a heart condition, the cold and stress." He trailed off. Then he shook his head and went back to work. Moved through the cargo bay observing, listening, learning. A woman named was describing how they had collected water. The shelter's water recycler had broken down. They had used condensation from their breath. They had melted ice from the frozen pipes. They had rationed every single drop. "Half a cup per person per day," said. "For the last 4 days, we had nothing. We survived on moisture from the air. You'd be surprised how much liquid you can get from just breathing into a container and letting it freeze." His translator struggled with some of the technical terms, but the meaning was clear. These humans had survived on almost nothing. He found the child again. She was being treated by now. The doctor was checking the splint on her leg. "This is good work," said gently. "Who did this for you?" "I did it myself," said. Her voice was matter of fact. "Mommy was stuck under the rocks. She told me how to do it. She said to use her belt for the tight part, to stop the bleeding. His hands paused. How long were you trapped? 4 days, I think. It was hard to tell. It was dark. Looked up at the doctor. Mommy stopped talking after the first day, but I remembered what she said. I kept the belt tight. I didn't move my leg. I waited. You waited 4 days, said softly. Mommy said someone would come. She promised, smiled. She was right. Finished adjusting the splint. She turned away for a moment, saw her wipe her eyes. He approached again. The captain was reviewing the shelter's logs on your military doctrine, said. What does it say about rescue operations? Looked up. We don't have military doctrine. We're civilians. Then Galactic Standard. Any colony without life support for 48 hours is declared a total loss. No rescue attempts. It's more efficient to focus resources on defendable positions. We don't follow that rule, said. Why not? Looked at the refugees, at with her broken leg, at with his burned hands, at all the people who should have been dead. Because sometimes people survive anyway, said, and we'd never forgive ourselves if we didn't look. That little girl waited 4 days. She believed someone would come. How could we not come? Had no answer to that. Later in his containment field, reviewed the data he had collected. The numbers were clear. Humans should not have survived. Their biology wasn't designed for such extremes. The species would have died within 6 hours of those conditions. Most galactic species would have done the same. But humans had lasted 11 days, on minimal resources, in hostile conditions, with injuries, with fear, with dying family members around them. They had survived because they refused to accept death. They had survived because they had something to live for. They had survived because apparently humans were just too stubborn to die when they were supposed to. Began composing a report. His superiors needed to know about this, about humans, about what they could endure. He watched sleeping in her mother's friend's arms. A child who had waited alone in the dark for 4 days, injured and trapped, believing that someone would come. And someone had come, because humans didn't follow the practical rules of warfare. They followed something else. Something was beginning to understand was far more powerful. Hope, stubbornness, love, whatever it was called, it made humans survive things that should kill them. Saved his report. He would send it when they reached the station. His superiors needed to understand what kind of species humanity was. The kind that simply refused to die. They never made it to Sanctuary Station. The attack came while they were sleeping, or at least while the humans were sleeping. Didn't need as much rest as they did. He was in the observation deck when the ship's alarm started screaming. 3 raider ships, fast attack vessels, the same design that had ambushed his dreadnought. Captain reached the bridge in seconds. His hair was messy, his eyes still heavy with sleep, but his voice was clear and steady. Shields up, evasive pattern 7, get those refugees strapped in. The ship lurched. The first shot hit their rear deflector. Not a full breach, but the shields were weak. The Morning Star wasn't a warship. It was a salvage vessel carrying too many people and running on backup power because they had used the main reserves to keep alive. Moved to the bridge. His containment field made the doorway tight, but he managed. They're the same raiders, he said, the ones who destroyed the colony. His jaw tightened. I know. Another impact, harder this time. The lights flickered. Someone was shouting about hull integrity. We can't fight them, the helmsman said. His name was Minu, young, scared. We have civilians on board, children. We can't outrun them either, said. He was checking the navigation display. They're faster, better armed. They'll tear us apart in minutes. Then surrender, said. It was the logical choice. You are a civilian vessel. They might let you live. Looked at him, really looked at him. You believe that? Said nothing. He had seen what the raiders did to colonies, to civilian ships. They didn't take prisoners. They took supplies and left bodies. So we fight, said quietly. "You'll die," said. "Maybe," turned to his crew, "but we'll make them work for it, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get lucky." He started giving orders. Move all non-essential personnel to the core of the ship. Redirect life support to critical areas only. Weapons to full charge. Even though their weapons were basically mining lasers against military-grade armor, they would fire them anyway. Doctor came to the bridge. "We have a problem. If we take another hit like that last one, the medical bay will lose atmosphere. I need to move the critical patients." "Where?" asked. "Cargo Bay 3. It's more protected, but I'll need to move them through sections with no gravity if the stabilizers fail." "Do it." Left could hear her organizing the evacuation. Her voice was calm, professional, like she was doing routine procedures, not preparing for a battle they couldn't win. The raiders fired again. This time they hit the engines. The ship shuddered violently. Its containment field sputtered for a second before stabilizing. "Engine 3 is down," someone reported. "Engine 2 is at 40%. We're losing speed." Studied the navigation display. His eyes were moving fast, calculating. Had seen that look before in military commanders. The look of someone trying to find a way out of an impossible situation. "There," said, pointing. "The nebula. It's 80 hours away at our current speed." "They'll catch us in less than 1 hour," Minyu said. "Then we make it hurt," said. "Return fire, aim for their sensor arrays, make them slow down to track us." The mining lasers fired, weak weapons against military ships, but they fired. And remarkably, one shot hit. Watched the targeting display. A lucky hit on the lead raider's forward sensor cluster. The ship peeled off, slowing down to recalibrate. "Good," said. "Do it again." They fired until the weapons overheated. The raiders were more cautious now. They had expected an easy kill. This tiny salvage ship was supposed to surrender or die quickly. Instead, it was fighting back. But it wasn't enough. The raiders regrouped and came at them from 3 angles. The next volley hit the starboard side. Hull breach in Section 4. Atmosphere venting. "Seal Section 4, ordered. Route life support through secondary conduits. Access the ship's systems through his containment field's interface." The damage report was catastrophic. They were losing fuel, losing air, losing power. They had maybe 20 minutes before critical systems failed completely. "Captain," he said, "the mathematics are clear. You cannot reach the nebula. You will lose engine power in 18 minutes. "Then we'll drift," said. "You'll drift for approximately 4 hours before life support fails completely. The raiders will board you long before that. Then we'll make boarding difficult." Wanted to grab the human and shake him, make him understand, but something in his eyes stopped him. The captain knew. He understood the math perfectly. He was choosing to fight anyway. Another hit. The ship's gravity failed in the rear sections. Heard shouting over the intercom. Was moving patients through zero gravity. She was calling out instructions, keeping people calm. Appeared on the bridge. His face was covered in sweat and grime. "I can give you more engine power," he said. "How?" asked. "I strip down the life support redundancies. Take power from the emergency shields. Push the remaining engines to 120% capacity." "That'll kill the engines in minutes," Minyu said. "Yes," agreed. "But we'll move faster first, maybe fast enough to reach somewhere we can hide." "Do it," said. Ran back to engineering, watched him go. The human was going to damage critical systems deliberately, reduce their survival time, all for a small chance at escaping. It was insane. The ship surged forward. The acceleration pushed everyone back. Felt his containment field strain to compensate. The engines were screaming. Warning lights covered every display. But they were moving faster. The raiders adjusted course to pursue. They fired again, but the Morning Star was dodging now, using every bit of speed it given them. The shots missed, barely, but they missed. "75 hours to the nebula," Minu said. His voice was shaking. "At this speed, if the engines hold." "They won't hold," said. "The stress is too high. You'll lose power in 12 minutes." "Then we have 12 minutes," said. They made it 10 minutes. Engine 2 exploded in a shower of sparks. The ship lurched sideways. Engine 1 was still running, but it was overheating. The temperature warnings were screaming. 6 minutes until engine failure," said. "You're still 45 hours from the nebula." Didn't answer. He was checking something on his display, some calculation that couldn't see. Then he smiled, not a happy smile, a desperate, crazy smile. "We don't need to reach the nebula," he said. "We just need to reach the dead zone." "What dead zone?" asked. "There," pointed at a section of space that looked like empty void. "It's a gravity eddy, residual effects from an old stellar collapse. Scanners can't penetrate it. Ships can drift through it, but engines won't work inside. Navigation is nearly impossible." "So we'll be blind," Minu said. "Yes, but so will they." Looked at his crew. "If we can make it to the edge, we can drift in. They'll lose our signature. We wait until they give up searching, then we drift out the other side." "How long will that take?" asked. "To drift through, about 80 hours, maybe more." "Your life support won't last 80 hours, not with this damage." "Then we'll make it last," said. He activated the ship-wide intercom. "All personnel, this is the captain. We're entering survival mode. Reduce oxygen levels to minimum safe limits. Non-essential crew to cold storage. Medical patients to be placed in stasis if possible. We're going dark and quiet. Access the ship's environmental data. Minimum safe oxygen levels for humans." He found the numbers. They were terrifyingly low. Humans would be confused, sluggish. It would feel like suffocating slowly. "This will be extremely uncomfortable," said. "Uncomfortable beats dead," replied. They made it to the gravity eddy with 30 seconds to spare. The last engine died just as they crossed the boundary. The ship went dark, emergency lights only. The temperature started dropping immediately. The raiders followed them to the edge, watched them on the passive sensors. The raider ships circled the boundary like predators waiting for prey to emerge. They fired scanning pulses into the dead zone, but the gravity distortions scrambled everything. The morning star was invisible. After 6 hours, the raiders left. They would return new, but for now the humans had escaped. The ship drifted in darkness and cold. Moved through the corridors. The temperature was dropping fast. The humans had shut down heating to conserve power. They were wearing every piece of clothing they had. They huddled together in groups, sharing body heat. He found in the medical bay. She was working by the light of a single emergency lamp. Her breath came out in clouds. She was checking on a man who had been injured in the engine explosion. His name was the sergeant from the colony. "How is he?" asked. "Punctured lung," said. Her voice was steady but could see her hands shaking. From cold or stress or exhaustion, he couldn't tell. "I've stabilized him, but he needs proper treatment. Treatment we don't have equipment for right now." Coughed, blood spotted the rag he held to his mouth. He smiled weakly at. "I've had worse," he said. "When?" asked. "Colony shelter. Day 9. Piece of ceiling fell on me, cracked 3 ribs, but we couldn't waste medical supplies on something that would heal on its own, so I just wrapped it tight and kept working." He coughed again. "This is basically the same thing." "A punctured lung is not the same as cracked ribs," said. "Sure it is. They both hurt like hell and you can't do much about either one except wait and try not to die." His grin widened. "I'm good at not dying." Left them and found the cargo bay where most of the civilians were gathered. They were wrapped in emergency blankets. The children were in the center of the group. The adults formed a protective circle around them. Was there, sleeping against a woman named, was the navigator. She was running a fever. Could see it in the flush of her skin, the way she was shivering even under the blankets. Radiation exposure, she said when she noticed him looking. From the engine room. I went in to help with the power transfer, got dosed pretty good. You should be in medical, said. Has worse cases, I can wait, adjusted the blanket around. Besides, the kid needs the warmth more than I do. Translator was having trouble with the human idioms, but the meaning was clear enough. These humans would sacrifice themselves for each other, for strangers, for children who weren't even their own. He returned to the bridge, was there alone. The captain was staring at the navigation display, at the plot of their drift through the dead zone, 80 hours, maybe more, with failing life support and no power to spare. You'll never make it, said. The oxygen levels are already dangerous. You have wounded. You have children. The cold will kill them. Maybe, said. He didn't look away from the display. But my great-grandmother walked 500 miles during the collapse. No food, no shelter, she survived. My grandfather lived through the biowars. He survived. He finally looked at. Humans are good at surviving impossible things. It's kind of our specialty. This isn't about pride, said. This is mathematics, logic, reality. I know, said softly. But reality has a funny way of bending when humans refuse to accept it. Had no answer to that. He returned to his containment field and watched the humans prepare for their slow drift through the dark. They should all die. The math said they would die. But was beginning to suspect that humans didn't care much about what the math said. They would survive or they would die trying. And trying was learning, was the most human thing possible. They drifted for 79 hours through the dead zone. Watched the humans suffer. The oxygen levels made them slow and confused. They stumbled when they walked. They forgot simple words. Their thoughts took longer to form. It was like watching people drown in slow motion. But they didn't give up. Performed surgery on punctured lung in those conditions. Her hands shook from the cold and the thin air. She had to stop multiple times to catch her breath. The lighting was so dim she could barely see. But she did it. She sealed the tear in his lung using equipment designed for minor injuries, not major surgery. Survived he shouldn't have, but he did. They made it through. On the 79th hour, the morning star drifted out of the dead zone. The engines wouldn't restart. They were dead, but used the last of their maneuvering thrusters to limp toward Haven Point, a small trading station 3 days away. They had 47 minutes of breathable oxygen left when they docked. 3 crew members collapsed immediately. Their bodies had been pushed past the limit, but they all recovered. Sent his report to his superiors while the humans recovered. He detailed everything. The impossible survival of the colony refugees, the desperate run through the dead zone, the willingness to endure suffering that would break most species. He didn't expect what happened next. 2 days later, while the Morning Star was being repaired, came to find him. The captain's face was grim. We intercepted a Raider transmission, he said. They're planning an attack, a big one. He showed the data. The Raiders had found a refugee convoy, 40,000 humans fleeing from the war zones, families, civilians. The convoy was protected by only 3 escort ships, not military, just armed transports. The Raiders had 20 warships. They would hit the convoy in 3 days. My fleet can reach them in 4 days, said. He had sent word to his surviving ships. They were regrouping, but they were too far away. I'm sorry, we cannot help in time. Stared at the star chart, at the convoy's position, at the Raider fleet forming up to attack. 3 days, he muttered. We need to be there in 3 days. It's impossible, said. Your ship is damaged. Even repaired, it would take 6 days to reach them. What about other ships? There are 6 human vessels docked here, all civilian, all lightly armed. Access the station records. Cargo haulers, medical transports, survey ships, nothing military. We can use them, said. Use them for what? To die alongside the convoy. Those 20 Raider warships will destroy everything. Not if we get there first, said. He was calculating something on his. We strip down the ships, remove all non-essential weight, cargo, luxury quarters, extra supplies, everything. Push the engines to maximum. The engines will fail, said. Not all of them, maybe half, but the other half will make it. And do what? 6 civilian ships against 20 warships. Looked at him. We fortify the convoy's position, set up defensive grids, mine the approach routes, make it costly for them to attack, buy time until real military ships arrive. You'll die, said, all of you. Maybe, was already moving toward the docking bay. But 40,000 people will live, that's worth it. Followed him. This is insane, there must be another way. There isn't, we checked. The convoy can't reach a safe port in time. They're too slow, too exposed. If those raiders hit them in open space, it'll be a massacre. Gathered the other ship captains. They met in the station's common area. 6 captains, all human, all tired from their own struggles and journeys. Explained the situation, the convoy, the raiders, the impossible timeline. We need to reach them in 3 days, he said. Maybe less, 2.5 days if we can manage it. A captain named laughed, not a happy laugh, a disbelieving one. That's impossible, the acceleration would kill us. We'd need to hit speeds that would tear our ships apart. Then we strip the ships down, said, make them lighter, push the engines past their limits. You're talking about running engines at 140% capacity, another captain said. Her name was Sora. She was young, with engineer's tattoos on her arms. They'll explode at 115%. Some will, agreed, but some won't, and the ones that make it will be enough. The acceleration, said, 8 for 60 hours, maybe more. That will destroy human bodies, will have internal bleeding, organ damage, some of us will die. Yes, said simply, some of us will die, but we'll save 40,000 people, children, families, our people. The room was silent. Then Sora spoke. I can rig stimulant injectors, keep people conscious during the acceleration. It won't stop the damage, but it'll help. I have military-grade crash couches on my ship, said, left over from the war. They're designed for high-G combat. We can transfer them to the other ships. One by one, the captains agreed. They would do this impossible thing. They would run their ships until they broke. They would endure acceleration that should kill them. They would face 20 warships with 6 civilian vessels. Because 40,000 people needed them. Tried to stop them. He explained the mathematics, the physics, the simple reality that this plan would kill most of them and probably fail to save the convoy anyway. They listened politely, then they started preparing their ships. Watched them strip down the vessels. They removed everything. Cargo holds emptied, crew quarters sealed off. They even removed the kitchen equipment to save weight. These ships would be barely livable by the time they were done. Sora came to him while she was working on the engine modifications. You think we're crazy, she said. I think you're going to die, replied. Maybe, probably. She was connecting a bypass to the engine core. Dangerous work. One mistake and the whole thing would explode. But my grandmother told me a story once. During the water wars, her city was surrounded. No food, no water. The enemy said they would leave one person alive to tell the story if the city surrendered. Otherwise, everyone would die. What happened? Asked. The city refused. They fought. Most of them died, but they held out long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The survivors said the same thing, all of them. Sora looked at him. They said dying on your feet is better than living on your knees. That's just pride, said. No, Sora said. It's about choosing how your story ends. We might die doing this, but we'll die trying to save people. That's a better story than hiding while 40,000 people get slaughtered. The ships launched 22 hours later. 6 vessels, stripped down, engines modified, crews in crash couches with stimulant injectors connected to their veins. watched from the station. His containment field couldn't handle the acceleration they were about to endure. He could only observe and wait. The ships accelerated hard, too hard. The readings were insane. 8, 9, 10. The engines were screaming. The structural integrity warnings were constant. 4 hours into the run, one ship's engine exploded. The vessel tumbled out of formation, but the crew transferred to another ship via emergency pods. They squeezed into spaces barely big enough for them. They continued. Monitored the medical data from the ships. It was horrifying. Blood pressure through the ceiling, stress fractures in bones, internal bleeding. The stimulants were keeping them conscious, but the damage was accumulating. Was performing surgery during the acceleration. His blood vessels were bursting from the pressure. She operated while pinned to her chair by 10 times normal gravity. Both of them were screaming from the pain, but she kept working. She kept him alive. 30 hours into the run, a second ship lost power. The crew jettisoned in escape pods. 4 ships remained. 48 hours in, they reached the convoy. They shouldn't have made it. Half the crews had burst blood vessels in their eyes. They were crying blood. Their bones were fractured. Their organs were damaged. But they made it. And they immediately started working. They had 8 hours before the raiders arrived. 8 hours to turn a vulnerable convoy into a fortress. Watched through the station's long-range sensors. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The humans were deploying mines, setting up deflector grids, creating kill zones, moving the convoy ships into defensive formations. They were doing all of this while barely able to move, while bleeding internally, while their bodies were breaking down from the acceleration damage. The raiders arrived exactly on schedule. They saw the defensive grid and hesitated. This wasn't supposed to be here. The convoy was supposed to be helpless. The human ships opened fire, not with military weapons, with mining lasers, with improvised missiles, with whatever they had. It shouldn't have worked. 6 damaged civilian ships against 20 warships. The math was clear. But the humans had placed their mines perfectly. They had created choke points. They made the raiders pay for every meter of space. 3 raider ships were destroyed in the first 15 minutes. 2 more were damaged. The raiders regrouped, realized they were facing determined resistance, and pressed the attack. The humans fought back. They lost another ship, then another, but they held the line. Fleet arrived 6 hours later. The battle was still raging. The humans had held, impossibly, inexplicably, they had held. The dreadnoughts entered the fight. The raiders broke and fled. 40,000 refugees survived. Because 6 human ships had done the impossible. Because humans refused to accept that they couldn't save everyone. Because they chose to die trying rather than live knowing they had done nothing. When ship docked with the convoy, he immediately went to find the human captains. He found in the medical bay. The captain was covered in blood. His eyes were red. He had fractures in both arms, but he was alive. Was next to him. Half his face was covered in burst blood vessels. He looked like he had been beaten nearly to death. He was laughing with a nurse about how bad they looked. Sarah was in surgery, critical condition, but stable. All 6 captains survived, barely, but they survived. Stood in the medical bay and watched them. These humans who had run their ships until they broke, who had endured acceleration that should have killed them, who had faced impossible odds because it was the right thing to do. He tried to find words, some way to express what he was feeling. These creatures had redefined his understanding of courage, of stubbornness, of sheer refusal to accept reality. Finally, he approached. "Why?" he asked. "Why do humans do this? Why do you survive things that should kill you? Why do you fight battles you cannot win?" Looked at him with those blood-red eyes and smiled. "Because someone has to," he said, "and it might as well be us." Had no response to that. He left the medical bay and went to his quarters. He updated his report. added the new data, the impossible rescue, the death-defying acceleration, the battle against overwhelming odds. His superiors needed to understand. Humanity wasn't just another species. They were something unique, something dangerous. They were survivors, and survivors didn't stop fighting until they won or until they were dead. And sometimes not even then. Commander stood before the War Council 3 months later. His containment field hummed softly in the chamber designed for multiple species. Around him sat the most powerful military leaders in the Empire, generals who had conquered star systems, admirals who commanded fleets that could crack planets. High Admiral sat at the center of the council. He was old. He had fought in more battles than had been alive. His expression was skeptical. "You filed a report," said, "about humans. You claim they are a significant strategic concern." "Yes," Admiral said. "Humans are a minor species, barely space-worthy. They have no great fleets, no advanced weapons. They are scavengers on the edge of civilized space," gestured dismissively. "Why should this council concern itself with them?" "Because they don't die when they should," said. The council chamber fell silent. "Explain," said. Activated the holographic display. Images appeared above the council table, the colony's shelter, the escape through the dead zone, the impossible rescue of the refugee convoy. "I have spent 3 months observing humans," said. "I have compiled data. I have witnessed their actions, and I have reached a conclusion that I believe this council must hear." He brought up the first set of data, environmental readings from the colony's shelter. 11 days without proper life support, temperature at -20°C, food for 3 days, water for 4. By all standard survival calculations, everyone in that shelter should have died within 72 hours. "But they didn't," said. "No, they survived by reducing their consumption to dangerous levels, by sharing body heat, by operating damaged equipment with their bare hands. A human named cycled their air processor manually every 2 hours for 11 days. The controls gave him electrical burns each time. He did it anyway." Changed the display. Medical data appeared: heart rates, blood pressure, oxygen levels. During their escape through the dead zone, the humans reduced oxygen levels to amounts that should cause permanent brain damage. They became confused, sluggish, barely able to think, but they maintained ship operations. One of their doctors performed surgery in those conditions. "Impressive," a council member said, "but desperation can drive any species to extreme measures." "It's not just desperation," said. He brought up the data from the convoy rescue. "They ran their ships at accelerations that should have killed them, 8 to 10 for 60 hours. Multiple crews suffered internal bleeding, broken bones, organ damage. By our calculations, half of them should have died from the acceleration alone." "How many died?" asked. "None," said. "They all survived, badly injured but alive. And after enduring that acceleration, they immediately entered combat against superior forces." The council murmured among themselves, waited. He had more to show them. "What you must understand," he continued, "is that this is not unusual for humans. This is normal. I researched their history, their home world." He brought up an image of Earth, blue and green, beautiful, deceptively peaceful. "Earth is what they call a death world," said. "The environment actively tries to kill its inhabitants. The weather can shift from survivable to lethal in hours. Their star produces radiation that causes cancer. Their gravity is high. Their atmosphere is corrosive to many species. They have predators that can kill adult humans easily." More images appeared: hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods. "Humans evolved in an environment of constant danger," said. "They learned to survive by being adaptable, by enduring, by refusing to die even when death would be easier." He brought up historical records: wars, famines, disasters. Their history is a record of survival against impossible odds. They have survived ice ages, plagues that killed half their population, wars that devastated entire continents. Each time they were pushed to the edge of extinction. Each time they survived. This just shows they are resilient, another council member said. That doesn't make them dangerous. Resilience is only part of it, said. He changed the display again. This time it showed psychological profiles. Humans have developed a mental adaptation that my people do not have. They call it different things: stubbornness, spite, determination, but the core is the same. When pushed toward death, humans don't surrender, they become more dangerous. He pulled up battle reports from human history. Small forces defeating larger armies, surrounded cities refusing to surrender, last stands that became legends. There is a human saying, said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." They actually believe this. And more importantly, they act on it. Every defeat makes them learn. Every loss makes them adapt. They don't just survive, they improve. Leaned forward. You're saying humans are individually tough. That still doesn't make them a strategic concern. We have billions of soldiers, advanced technology, fleet superiority. You're missing the point, Admiral said. He brought up a simulation, a hypothetical war between the Empire and humanity. Yes, we would win battles, we would destroy their ships, conquer their colonies. By every standard military calculation, we would win the war in months. The simulation played out, fleets dominating, human forces retreating, planets falling. But then what? Asked. We occupy human worlds, we try to hold them, and this is where it falls apart. He showed new data, resistance movements, guerrilla warfare, humans surviving in environments they couldn't tolerate. We cannot hold their worlds because we cannot survive in their environment for long periods. We need specific atmospheric conditions, specific temperatures. We cannot eat their food. We cannot drink their water without processing. But they can survive almost anywhere. They can eat nearly anything. They can endure conditions that would kill our soldiers. The simulation showed occupation forces struggling. Supply lines stretched thin. Constant attacks from human resistance. We would win every battle and lose the war, said, because humans don't stay defeated. They hide, they adapt. They survive in places we cannot follow, and they wait. They wait for us to make mistakes, to overextend, to show weakness. This is speculation, a council member said. No, said. This is observation. I have seen what humans can endure. I have watched them survive what should kill them, and I understand now what makes them truly dangerous. He brought up one final image. It was from the colony shelter. The child, 4 days old, footage of her waiting in the dark with a crushed leg, alone, injured, waiting for rescue that might never come. This child waited 4 days, said. In pain, in darkness, alone with her dead mother. She was 8 years old. By our standards, she should have panicked, should have died of shock or despair, but she waited. Because her mother told her someone would come, she believed it, and someone did come. He looked at each council member. That is what makes humans dangerous. Not their technology, not their numbers, their belief. They believe they will survive. They believe rescue will come. They believe they can win against impossible odds, and that belief makes them do impossible things. He deactivated the display. I am not saying we should fear humans. I am saying we should understand them, because if we ever go to war with humanity, we need to know what we're facing. We're not facing a normal species. We're facing survivors, and survivors don't give up, ever. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then spoke, "What do you recommend, Commander?" Alliance, said immediately. Not from fear, from respect. Humans are valuable allies. They can operate in environments we cannot. They can survive situations that would kill our people. They have a mindset that makes them never surrender. If we ally with humanity, we gain soldiers who will hold the line when others would retreat. We gain specialists who can survive anywhere. We gain a species that simply refuses to lose. And if we make them enemies, another council member asked. Then we make enemies who will never stop fighting, said. Who will survive in conditions we declare uninhabitable, who will hit us from places we consider safe, who will lose every battle and still find a way to win the war, not because they're stronger, because they've spent 200,000 years refusing to die on a planet that wanted to kill them. They've been practicing survival since before most species achieved space flight. This council will vote on the matter. The vote took 10 minutes. It was unanimous. Humanity was designated a protected ally species, not conquered, not subjugated, allied. After the council adjourned, approached. You respect them, the admiral said. It wasn't a question. Yes, said. I do. They saved my life when they had no reason to. They risked themselves for strangers. They survived things that should have killed them. How can I not respect that? You're being assigned as an ambassador, said, to Earth, to humanity. You'll represent the Empire in establishing formal relations. I accept, said. 6 months later stood on Earth for the first time. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was harsh. The star overhead was too bright, too dangerous. He understood now why this planet had created such resilient people. Living here was a daily battle against the environment. He met with human leaders, established trade agreements, set up cultural exchanges, and he watched humans go about their daily lives on this death world they called home. They climbed mountains for recreation, mountains that had killed thousands of their own people. They ran races that pushed their bodies to collapse. They went into space in ships that still failed regularly. They explored. They risked. They pushed boundaries. They did dangerous things because it was interesting. One day found him. She was older now, taller. She worked as a rescue specialist, teaching alien species human survival techniques. Commander, she said, smiling, I heard you were here. Want to go hiking? There's a great trail nearby. How far? Asked carefully. Only 40 miles. It's beautiful. Mountains, forests, rivers, really peaceful. Stared at her. 40 miles. You consider that peaceful recreation? Well, yeah, it's not like we're doing anything dangerous, just walking. She tilted her head. Oh, I guess for you it might be harder, the gravity and all. We could do a shorter trail, maybe 20 miles. I will respectfully decline, said. Laughed, fair enough. Let me know if you change your mind. Oh, and thanks for the whole alliance thing. Captain told me you to your war council about us. I simply told them the truth, said, that humanity is a species that survives what should kill them. Yeah, said, that's kind of our thing, she smiled. My mom used to say that humans are too stubborn to know when to quit. I think she meant it as a joke, but after being trapped under those rocks waiting for rescue, I get it now. Being stubborn kept me alive. She waved goodbye and left. Watched her go. This young human who had survived impossible circumstances, who now taught others how to survive, who thought a 40-mile walk in crushing gravity was relaxing. He opened his data pad and added one more note to his continuously updated report on humanity. Observed today, humans consider extreme physical exertion to be recreational. They voluntarily engage in activities that would be classified as endurance torture by most species. They do this for enjoyment. This species does not just survive hardship. They seek it out. They practice it. They make it part of their culture. Conclusion: humanity has weaponized survival. They have turned the ability to endure into a fundamental part of their identity. Any species that goes to war with humanity must understand this. You cannot break what has spent learning how to not break. You cannot defeat what refuses to accept defeat. You cannot kill what has made surviving impossible situations into a cultural value. Recommendation stands. Alliance is the only logical choice, because having humans as allies means having soldiers who will never give up. And having them as enemies means facing an opponent who will survive anything you do to them and come back stronger. The mathematics are clear. The only way to win against humanity is not to fight them at all. Saved the report and looked up at Earth's dangerous star. He thought about the species that had evolved under that radiation, that had learned to thrive on this death world, that had turned survival into an art form. He was glad they were allies, because fighting humanity would be like fighting the concept of survival itself, and survival, had learned, always finds a way to win.